You are tuned to the CWA Civil Rights Talk Show, an hour of power. Now, here's your host, Errol Minor.
Good morning, Linda J., and good morning to the listening audience in Houston and all over the country. Welcome back to Communication Workers of America, CWA Human Rights Hour Power, a justice-filled hour of talk, solidarity, and worker power, right here on KYOK 1140 AM and the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you on kyokradio.org. It's almost summer. The days are getting longer, and we have more time to get outside and let our union voices be heard. Let our union voices ring in every district from Alaska to Maine, from Texas to Minnesota. Our union brothers, sisters, and siblings at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette have been outside, still outside, 18 months and counting, striking on the picket lines. And yet, while they are striking, they are still churning out the news with facts for you and me. Let's show our support to them by making sure we subscribe to unionprogress.com. Once you subscribe to this free publication, how about going over and donating to their strike fund? You may donate at cwa.org/ppg-donate. And I just heard someone shout, "When we fight, we win." Yes, that is true. Our brothers, sisters, and siblings at Maximus are still fighting for a contract. We ask that you continue to support the workers of Maximus and their families by going over to cwa.org/CCW Solidarity Fund. Decorations Day, the overlooked Black history of Memorial Day. Memorial Day honors veterans of all wars, but its roots are in America's deadliest conflict, the Civil War. Approximately 620,000 soldiers died, about 2/3 from disease. The work of honoring the dead began right away all over the country, and several American towns claim to be the birthplace of Memorial Day. Researchers have traced the earliest annual commemoration to women who laid flowers on soldiers' graves in the Civil War hospital town of Columbus, Mississippi in April 1866. But historians, like the Pulitzer Prize winner David Blight, have tried to raise awareness of freed slaves who decorated soldiers' graves a year earlier to make sure their story gets told too. According to Blight's 2001 book, Race and Reunion, The Civil War in American Memory, a commemoration organized by freed slaves and some white missionaries took place on May 1st, 1865, in Charleston, South Carolina, at a former planters' racetrack where Confederates held captured Union soldiers during the last year of the war. At least 257 prisoners died, many of disease, and were buried in unmarked graves. So Black residents of Charleston decided to give them a proper burial. In the approximately 10 days leading up to the event, roughly 24 African-American Charlestonians reorganized the graves into rows and built a 10-foot tall white fence around them. An archway overhead spelled out "Martyrs of the Race Course" in Black letters. About 10,000 people, mostly Black residents, participated in the May 1st tribute, according to coverage back then in the Charleston Daily Courier and the New York Tribune. Starting at 9 a.m., about 3,000 Black school children paraded around the racetrack, holding roses and singing the Union song, "John Brown's Body," and were followed by adults representing aid societies for freed Black men and women. Black pastors delivered sermons and led attendees in prayer and the singing of the spirituals, and there were picnics. James Redpath, the white director of Freedmen's Education in the region, organized about 30 speeches by Union officers, missionaries, and Black ministers. Participants sang patriotic songs like "America" and "We'll Rally Around the Flag" and the "Star-Spangled Banner." In the afternoon, 3 white and Black Union regiments marched around the graves and staged a drill. The New York Tribune described the tribute as a procession of friends and mourners at South Carolina and the United States never saw before. The grave sites looked like one mass of flowers, and the breeze wafted through the sweet perfumes from them, and tears of joy were shed. This tribute gave birth to an American tradition, Blight wrote in Race and Reunion. The war was over, and Memorial Day had been founded by African Americans in a ritual of remembrance and consecration. In 1996, Blight stumbled upon a New York Herald Tribune article detailing the tribute in a Harvard University archive. But the origin story is told was not the Memorial Day history that many white people had wanted to tell, he argues. About 50 years after the Civil War ended, someone at the United Daughters of the Confederacy asked the Ladies Memorial Association of Charleston to confirm that May 1st, 1865 tribute occurred, and received a reply from one South Carolina Beckwith. I regret that I was unable to gather any official information in answer to this. Whether Beckwith actually knew about the tribute or not, Blight argues, the exchange illustrates how Charlestonians suppressed from memory this founding. A 1937 book also incorrectly stated that James Redpath single-handedly organized the tribute, when in reality it was a group effort and that it took place on May 30th. When it took place on May 1st, the book also diminished the role of African Americans involved by referring to them as Black hands, which only knew that the dead they were honoring had raised them from a condition of servitude. The origin story that did stick involves an 1868 call from General John A. Logan, president of a Union Army veterans group, urging Americans to decorate the graves of the fallen with flowers on May 30th of that year. The ceremony took place in Arlington National Cemetery. That day has been considered the first official Memorial Day celebration. Memorial Day became a national holiday 2 decades later in 1889, and it took a century before it was moved in 1968 to the last Monday in May, where it remains today. According to Blight, Hampton Park, named after Confederate General Wade Hampton, replaced the grave site at the Martyrs of the Race Course, and the graves were re-entered in the 1880s at a national cemetery in Beaufort, South Carolina. The fact that the freed slaves' Memorial Day tribute is not as well remembered is emblematic of the struggle that would follow, as African Americans fight to be fully recognized for their contributions to American society continues to this day. African American history is American history. Next up, we have a recap of the 2024 CBTU conference from last week. I don't know about my fellow radio show team, but it was an awesome time on last week. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Errol.
Good morning, Errol.
Good morning, Errol.
It's so good to have all of us back again. It's been a long week, and I have missed every last one of you guys from being in your presence. So let's talk about this coalition of Black Trade Unionists conference on last week.
Well, Errol, I wouldn't know where to start. It was just such an exciting week to be in Houston, Texas at the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists 53rd convention. It was a wonderful, wonderful event. And we got to broadcast, as you know, we broadcasted from the convention on last Thursday. I don't know where to start, but since I'm talking, I'm going to start at the end and talk about my favorite part of this.
Yes, because we really want to know.
Okay, so first of all, I was told that there was a wonderful leadership training that was held. That was, I believe, on last Tuesday. That was very informative and very helpful for upcoming leaders. But I'm going to skip all the way to the end, or to the Saturday and Sunday event. There was a gospel concert that was held on Saturday night. It was absolutely amazing. Our own international president, Claude Cummings, was there. He actually spoke on Thursday as well. A wonderful speech, by the way. And then we had a church service where we featured right here from Dallas, Texas, one of the pastors from Friendship West, or the pastor of Friendship West, Dr. Freddie Haynes. And he actually had a powerful message that tied into the CBTU theme. He spoke from Exodus, and of course about a familiar story about Moses parting the Red Sea with his rod, his staff, with emphasis: the power is in our hand as it relates to these upcoming elections. So it was a wonderful event throughout, and I'm going to turn it over to Makia and also to Tamia so that they can actually share some insights as well.
One of my favorite things about CBTU is the youth programs that they have. As a mom, all too often you find yourself having to make the choice between whether you can go somewhere or attend something really great, or you have to find a babysitter, or you just have to stay home with your kids. So I really appreciate that CBTU takes that into consideration, and they have youth programs where they bring the kids there, you know, they train them up, they give them good information, and they're all still a part of something as so small. They're part of this big, huge thing at such a young age, and it helps to form their little young minds. And I'm just super appreciative of that. That's one of my favorite things that they have at CBTU.
And I just want to speak on the atmosphere, the fellowship, and how it was truly a place for people to come together with ideas and a great mind to share ideas and share what worked for them in their area, what didn't work for them in their area. So it was like a big powwow of minds coming together.
Did anybody notice how Reginald took notes from the preacher?
No, I didn't notice.
Well, I am the son of a Baptist preacher, and some things just absolutely never leave you.
So he paid attention to Dr. Freddie Haynes.
I certainly did. I mean, it was a very inspirational message, something that we can live on in this movement and in our everyday lives.
Yeah, and one of the things that I must reiterate or bring back up again is we have to give kudos to, first off, to President Melvin for the awesome job of putting this conference together. Again, this was my second conference that I attended. The first was in New Orleans on last year, where I met you guys, Makia and Reginald.
Yes, our
Our
anniversary.
anniversary.
And I'm still waiting for my cake and my candle. Still.
But we also have to recognize one of our own, Mr. Melvin, Dominic Melvin, for the 40 and under. He is doing an awesome job. I had an opportunity to talk with him before I left, and in order for the organization to go, there must be, or to move ahead, there has to be young people involved. And with what Makia brought up and with what he is doing, CBTU is headed in the right direction. So again, my hat is off to President Melvin for the awesome job at the CBTU conference last week in Houston, Texas. You're tuned into KYOK 1140 AM, the all new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you at kyokradio.org. Up next, we have the Union Buster of the Week. And I don't know if Timya has that bell fixed just yet, but who are you busting this week, Timya?
Today, Errol, we are going to be busting Nike. And I do not have my bell fixed. That's something I need to work on. It's a good union bell. And for some reason, you just can't hear it. But that's all right. We're going to go forward and we're going to stick it to Nike today. We're going to talk about Nike. Nike is facing growing resentment over its steadfast refusal to pay more than 4,000 garment workers $2.2 million in unpaid wages and benefits since 2020. It's unprecedented. And they've got many concerns mounting from Nike investors, human rights groups, unions, and consumers alike that Nike has become a corporate outlier on human rights issues, once again achieving notoriety for failing to ensure that women workers in their supply chain are given their basic rights, despite the company's own statement and stated commitments on and code of conduct. In Cambodia, 1,284 workers of the Ramatek-owned Violet Apparel Company were fired without being paid $1.4 million and legally owned benefits when the factory closed in July of 2020, with many of these women having worked at the factory for over a decade. Despite there being photos and documentaries and documented evidence showing that Nike products were made in the factory, Nike continues to deny that their products were made there, even while producing clothes at other Ramatek-owned factories in Cambodia and 14 worldwide, raising serious concerns about Nike's abject failure of human rights due diligence processes. And then the Hong Sing Knitting Factory in Thailand, over 3,000 mostly Burmese migrant workers were denied legally owned pandemic furlough pay in 2020, which even a Thai court has maintained is owed. In this case, Nike's excuse is that workers voluntarily gave up their wages, now amounting to over 800,000 US dollars. So imagine how far that money would go in Thailand. And this affects mostly pregnant workers who are among them. They lost the most because not only did they lose their job, they also lost their means of taking care of their child, their pay for when they were out on leave. And it's just snowballed for a lot of families. More than 50 leading human rights organizations and unions from around the world, including CWA, have published a detailed statement on these cases, calling on Nike to resolve both egregious violations in full. Nike has been engaged by multiple groups around the world on both cases for more than 3 years and have steadfastly still refused to pay workers what they are owed. Instead, they have chosen to defend the rights of their rights-abusing supplier partners. Worker efforts to be heard by Nike have been consistently ignored in spite of repeated protest actions at grave personal risk. Ahead of the Violet Apparel workers called on Nike board executive Duckett to raise her voice within the company for swift payment to workers, in line with her statement to commitment in support of women workers and workers of color and labor rights. LinkedIn targeted Duckett on the morning of September the 11th, and it attracted over 90 comments that have been left on LinkedIn's post, urging her to use her position to ensure justice for the Violet Apparel workers. Many Nike investors, many of whom have never taken a public position on any other issues, have now joined the call for Nike to pay their workers the $2.2 million that they are owed. They are issuing a public letter and using the letter to call for investors to sign on. Over a dozen investors have added their names to the letter, and the list continues to grow, which is huge because investors normally stay neutral in situations like this. The situation for these Nike workers remains dire, with women and their families struggling to survive. One former worker of the Violet Apparel factory said, as soon as the factory closed, there was a tsunami of issues affecting my life. My husband was in an accident and I could not find a new job. I had to suspend my children from going to school because I just couldn't afford it. I had to sell everything that I saved up for when I had a good job. Nike falsely positions itself as a supporter of women's empowerment while holding back $2.2 million that they owe to vulnerable women of color who made these clothes. There is nothing but cruelty that stands in the way of Nike paying these workers what they are owed. Everyone can see it. Nike and its board of directors need to take their own advice and just do it. Nike, pay your workers what they are due.
And so Nike is the union buster of the week. Thank you, Timmy, for that report from Nike. And Timia, by the way, did you say Nike stated that the workers voluntarily gave up their salary?
That's exactly what they said. They said that they voluntarily gave up their salary. And I don't know anybody that would voluntarily give up their salary, especially if I work for it.
Right.
How they say, ain't no way.
Right. It is no way that I would voluntarily give up my salary to the company that is making billions and billions of dollars. Thank you so much, Timia, for stopping by and giving us that report of the Union Buster of the Week. Up next, it's Military Appreciation Month right here on KYOK 1140 AM 92.106, the all-new 106.5 FM. Communication Workers of America, CWA Human Rights, Our Power. You can take us with you on KYOKradio.org. Good morning, Makia. Again, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for having me back. Hi, Houston. How are you? So earlier in the episode, Errol spoke about Memorial Day, and we all know about Memorial Day. But I did not believe when I was doing all of my research for all the different awarenesses and different recognitions that we do every week, that there was a Military Appreciation Month. I had never heard about that. And I was like so disheartened and shocked. And I'm like, how did I not know? So May is Military Appreciation Month, and it's a special time for those in and out of the military. It's a time designated to honor and recognize the contributions, sacrifices, and service of the members of the armed forces, past and present. So Congress designated May as National Military Appreciation Month in 1999 to ensure the nation was given the chance to publicly show their appreciation for troops past and present, and it serves as a reminder of the profound contributions made by service members. So again, not only do we pause on Memorial Day to remember the sacrifice and service of those who gave all, but the month also marks several other military anniversaries and events, including Military Spouse Appreciation Day and Armed Forces Day. The month also includes VE Day, which commemorates the end of the World War II in Europe. So, Military Appreciation Month plays a crucial role in fostering awareness and understanding of the challenges faced by the military community. It provides a platform for education and dialogue about the experiences of service members, veterans, and their families. And I know we have a few on this call today. In addition to keeping the country safe during wartime, the U.S. military also conducts important research that has led to many important and useful civilian technologies that we use every day, like the GPS, canned food, and jet engines. The military also holds part to some crucial moments in human rights history, like the Tuskegee Airmen, who were the first African-American military aviators in the United States, serving from the 1940 to 1946, and the Buffalo Soldiers, which in 1886, the Buffalo Soldiers was authorized by Congress as an all-Black regiment, and they were the 9th and 10th Cavalry and the 24th and 25th Infantry. And before legislation was formally passed allowing women into the military in 1948, women like Harriet Tubman and Mary Walker had served in the Civil War as nurses, spies, and even soldiers disguised as men. And speaking of the Civil War, around 179,000 Black men served in the Union Army and 19,000 in the Navy during the Civil War, making up about 10% of the Union Army. They served in infantry and artillery and also performed non-combat support roles. Black soldiers also worked as carpenters, chaplains, cooks, guards, laborers, nurses, scouts, spies, steamboat pilots, surgeons, and teamsters. Almost 40,000 Black soldiers died during the Civil War, and they gave their lives for the birth of the country that we live in today. The military directly guarantees not only security and prosperity, but also human rights and freedoms. So this may show your appreciation to military personnel by thanking a military member or veteran, brushing up on your military history like I just did, and volunteering with a local veteran service organization. So thanks again, and again, thank you for your service, and happy Military Appreciation Month.
Thank you so much, Makia. Happy Military Appreciation Month to everyone. Again, you are tuned into the KYOK 1140 AM 106.5 Communication Workers of America, Human Rights, Our Power. You can take us with you on KYOKradio.org. Up next, we have our own Reginald Small. Good morning, Reginald.
Good morning, Errol, and good morning, KYOK radio listeners. I am and I remain Reginald Small, Civil Rights and Equity Chairperson for Communication Workers of America. The spring storms continue to march across Texas and other parts of the nation. Please remember to keep those impacted in your thoughts and prayers. I've said it once and I'll say it again. This is my favorite part of the program, spotlighting one of our own CWA members and activists. This morning, we're going to be spotlighting David Marshall. David Marshall was born and raised in West by God, Virginia, the son and grandson of coal miners employed with the Olga Coal Company and proud members of the United Mine Workers Union. David served 4 years in the United States Marines. After honorably discharging from the Marines, David moved to Dallas, Texas. Yes, that's Dallas, Texas, District 6. He started his career with Southwestern Bell in the year 2000, and he joined the union on day one. This was his first union job and was excited at the possibilities that it would bring. David is loyal to the union and its cause. David wants to make sure everyone gets a fair shake and representation from this local 6215. David has served through ranks in union as job steward, education committee chair, convention delegate, jurisdiction committee member, PMEI, safety committee, and has served 2 terms as vice president. David is currently the executive vice president at CWA Local 6215 in Dallas, Texas. He is a member of several constituency groups, CBTU, NAACP, and is on the executive board with the Minority Caucus. David is happily married to a CWA union member, Miss Heather Marshall, and they do have 4 children, equally divided, 2 girls and 2 boys. David, welcome to our show this morning, and thank you for your service in the armed forces and your commitment to this union movement.
Good morning.
Thank you, David. I'm so excited to talk to you this morning. I'm over talking you. So David, could you tell us a little bit about what got you interested in this union movement?
You know, Reggie, I really didn't have a choice. I was actually born into it. I grew up in a coal field in southern West Virginia, Shaft Hollow to be exact. My dad, my granddad, great-grandfather, they all worked for the Olga Coal Company and were all part of the United Mine Workers of America. And I just remember thinking, man, I have the biggest family ever. I mean, we were always hanging out with these folks, doing stuff on the weekends, having picnics, you know, fellowshipping, and didn't realize that we were not blood relation, but they were our union family. And, you know, we were play cousins. You know, most of the folks that lived up in that holler, we still keep in touch today, and they're like family. So I really didn't have a choice. I didn't understand and appreciate it then, but I definitely do appreciate it now, serving in the role as the executive vice president for my union.
Thank you, David, for sharing that. Something is coming to mind, and it's 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go. I owe my soul to the company store. So, David, does that song ring a bell with you, and does it bring back any memories?
It is a whole truth sandwich right there. It's a truth sandwich that everybody that came up in it had to take a bite of. Yeah, but the company store was all Walmart. You know, we as kids, you know, we'd pick up pop bottles and stuff because, I mean, I'll give you some backdrop. You know, we was po. We didn't have the OR. We was just the PO. That's where we was at. We pick up bottles on the way going to the company store, and you know, you could turn in the bottles and they give you, you know, a dime or something for each Coke bottle. And I remember thinking, man, that dime sure goes a long way. I'd come out of there with, you know, 10 pieces of candy, not realizing that, you know, they were putting that on my dad or my granddad's account. You know, I wasn't buying that much candy with a dime. And so it's just funny that you know, I listened to the stories some of the elders would talk about. You know, there was a time where they paid them in scrip, which scrip was a form of currency that was only good at the company store that you worked for, and you couldn't use them at any of the other company stores. So they kind of had a monopoly on that. And you know, because they're giving you the script, and then they own all the stuff in the script, so it really didn't do you any good. But it's just one of those deals where even the houses, I was gifted a house when my great grandfather passed that unfortunately it was burned to the ground, and I learned at that point, once the house, you know, was no longer standing, the property was not ours. The property was still the coal company's. So they owned every little bit of who you were, but that was the draw. My folks came from, you know, the South. They were, you know, working on tobacco farms and sharecropping, and they moved there for the opportunity to have a fair shake, because those union jobs ensured that they would get equal pay.
And David, as you well know, and you've heard on the show, and as a military person, you know it is Military Appreciation Month. And sincerely, I do thank you for your service. Could you tell us a little bit about your inspiration in joining the Marines in particular, how it's changed your life, and most importantly, how has it contributed to your success as a union leader?
Well, it was crazy. I did not go join the Marine Corps. I was going to go join the Army. And the day that I went there, the office was closed and the Marine Corps office was open. And I was like, hey, they're all the same, you know, because I really didn't know the difference between the branches of service. And so I went in, and, you know, the Marine Corps guy, you know, gave me the paperwork. I filled it out and went and tested. And then once I tested, about 3 weeks later, somebody canceled. They backed out of their commitment, and he asked me if I wanted to go. And I really hadn't thought much about it, and said, yeah, you know what, I'll do it. And lo and behold, I got off that bus and stood on those footsteps and realized I made the biggest mistake of my life. You know, I was at the chaplain's office every week trying to figure out a way to get out of this commitment. But eventually, you know, it kicked in that, hey, this is what I needed. Prior to that, I was very I procrastinated a lot. I really wasn't motivated, and it basically broke me down and rebuilt me into the person I am today. It drastically changed my life. Prior to that, I'd never seen the ocean before, and within my first year of being in the Marines, I saw the Atlantic and the Pacific. You know, it took me completely out of the element that I was, you know, so accustomed and comfortable to. But, you know, it also gave me some life skills. I was a motor T mechanic that, you know, prior to that, I only knew how to put gas in a car. I actually burned up my first car, locked the engine up, you know, prior to the military, because I never changed the oil. You know, for 2 years, 2.5 years, I never did the oil change. And, you know, after going through motor T school, it actually equipped me with the skills that I use to this day. I'm a technician for AT&T, and you know, as you well know, Reggie, I'm also not only the executive vice president of the local, but I'm the bookman / Schneider of the building. So I'm always working and fixing something here at this building. So yeah, it's definitely impacted me, the skills and the training that I received in the Marine Corps.
Thank you, David. You know, we're entering graduation. Well, we're not entering it. We're in full swing of the graduation season, graduation month, the month of May. We're getting invitations, and everyone's child is having a party. David, if you could impart some wisdom upon an 18-year-old David or a young person about to start on life's journey as an adult, what would that be?
I would just tell them, take advantage of every opportunity. You know, life is too short. You know, make the most of every moment and just keep getting up going. One of the ways I got through boot camp, and I devised this myself, because, you know, for most of the time that I was in, I was trying to get out. And when I finally decided I was going to do this, I said, you know what? I'm going to go from meal to meal. We called it chow to chow. And then the chow to chow became Sunday to Sunday. And as I kept doing that, my 12 weeks went by very fast. And so I would say, you know, don't stop. getting up and doing something positive every day, and just do what you love.
Well, that sounds like some really, really good advice, David. I want to personally thank you for coming on and sharing with our KYOK radio listeners this morning. And if you would just hang out with us just a minute, we'll continue with this interview. And Errol, back to you.
I think Reginald, when he did that song, it just got to him.
It got to him. It got to him.
Yes, it did. It did,
He
Errol.
has gotten discombobulated over.
I'm gonna request you sing that every morning before we get started. All right, so
All
we
right.
can appreciate what we do every day.
We'll do it as a duo, David. That's
Well, thank you, Reginald. Thank you, David. And we're going to ask that you stick around as I introduce our next guest, Lamar Banks. Lamar is originally from Little Rock, Arkansas, and he enlisted in the U.S. Army for 5 years. He began his career at AT&T Wireless in July of 2000 and has spent his entire AT&T career with the mobility sector. He has served in several capacities with the union as state mobilization coordinator, area vice president, organizing chief steward, and has served as treasurer of the CWA Dallas Local 6215 since 2021. Lamar is a member of several constituency groups, one of which the Black Veterans Caucus, which he co-chairs. The Black Veterans Caucus builds progressive power amongst Black veterans and uplift our voice in the fight against racism and works across multiple states to help storm victims and register voters. He is married and the father of 2 children and proud grandfather of 1 granddaughter. In his downtime, he likes to travel, have spiritual mentorship, and spend treasured time with his family. Good morning, Lamar, and thank you for joining us here on CWA Radio Show.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to be on here today.
Well, Lamar, you have an interesting background, and one of the things that I saw in your bio was something about common defense. Will you tell us a little about common defense?
Yes. Common Defense is a grassroots organization that was founded back in 2016, which is made up of nearly 2,000 veterans throughout the U.S., fighting for stronger foreign policies, voting rights, and democracy and climate change.
All right, and then I also noticed that you are a member of the Black Veterans Caucus. Will you tell us more about the Black Veterans Caucus and its mission?
Yes, I've been recently elected as the co-chair of the, we call it BBC, Black Veterans Caucus. It's made up of 50 members. We formed this caucus back in 2023. And we formed this based upon every time we turned on the news, we were seeing police brutality. And instead of just sitting around talking about it, we wanted to get out and make a difference and fight for change, fight for legislation, just to be active and to hold the police accountable. As we know, all police aren't bad, but there are incidents that just continue to happen that was weighing heavy on my heart. And you'll see things that happen and time pass and you don't know what happened or what was the result of the police brutality. One of the things that recently happened is the airman was shot in his home. He was in his home and the police knocked on his door and the door was open, as you all know, and he was killed. You know, those are things that weigh near and dear to our heart, and we're just wanting to see change. Also, as the Black Veteran Caucus, we went out to Houston last month to help with the storm relief. We handed out detergent. We also handed out water to people who lost power, people who were without. We're also working with Black Voters Matters to register voters. We also did the March in Washington, the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington last year as well in DC. So those are different things that we're trying to do, and we're recruiting other veterans as well throughout the U.S.
And hey, Errol, also I'd like
Yes.
to add, when we actually, when we formed the Black Veterans Caucus, we did this. We actually, there was some thought put into it. We did our first caucus together at the Highland Research and Education Center, which used to be called the Highland Folk School. Which was a justice leadership training in Tennessee that was very pivotal during the 1950s during the Civil Rights Movement. Folks such as Dr. King, Rosa Parks, John Lewis, Julian Bond, all trained there. And we channeled, what they were doing with what we were doing, because we still have those same problems today.
Yes, that is awesome. Thank you so much, David. And Lamar, when and how did you become a member?
Back about 2 years ago, Common Defense reached out to CWA, and they were looking for a partnership to bring in veterans to train them on organizing and crafting a message of veterans out there, and just wanting the partnership of CWA. So I was asked by one of our leaders out of the DC area if I wouldn't mind attending a veterans organizing institution, which was out in North Carolina 2 years ago. And in that course, we worked on crafting a message towards systemic racism, organizing veterans throughout the US, getting them engaged. We also trained on how to present and speak in front of the media as well, which was an awesome event.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, let me ask something. The experiences that you have had with the being in the service, well, let me ask this. What kind of experiences have you had, first off, in the service?
I had a lot of good and some bad. Being part of Common Defense and reuniting with veterans. When you get out of the military, when you're in the military, you have a military family. And then when you get out, you go back into the regular world and you go back to your original family. Well, you lose connection with other veterans unless you just run across someone or you see they may have veteran plates or whatever. So you run across veterans and you talk and you encourage them. But based upon my experience when I was in the military and talking to others, there were some things of unfair treatment, some racism that went on. So there are things that veterans carry around that they don't understand, or they think it was just maybe me. Maybe I'm the only one that experienced this, but it's a platform for us to come together and talk these things out. And a person allows a veteran to understand that this just didn't happen to you. Even combat, there's different things as a veteran you experience in combat. And sometimes we're taught in the military that, you don't really talk about a whole lot of things that you may experience. So a lot of people have taken what they experienced in the military and they get out of the military and it's there and they're dealing with it and they don't quite understand and they think, well, it just happened to me. And some have walked around in shame. So when we come together and we talk, it allows us to open up and talk through it and just to be able to release what you've carried around for years.
Are those experiences the reason behind you becoming the activist that you are today?
Yes, it is. Getting out of the military, I may have had contact with guys here and there that may have been in the military, but now being part of Common Defense is like a family. It's a family that we all have in common, that we served our country. And to be able to come together and talk and laugh and just be able to relate to each other, it means a lot to me. So that's why I'm so passionate about talking to other veterans and inviting them to ask them to come and join Common Defense. And also, if you're a Black veteran, to join our Black Veteran Caucus as well.
Okay, and how can we support the Black Veterans Caucus?
The way you can support the Black Veteran Caucus is if you run across anyone that is used to be in the military, to send them to commondefense.us. And again, that is commondefense.us. Send them there. They can sign up and they can register. And someone from our staff and our leadership team will reach out to them and get them involved and get them engaged. Also, one of the things I want to mention as well, that there are veterans out there that have disabilities, something they sustained while they were in the military. That's something that Common Defense helps with as well. We have experts, we have attorneys that can assist you in getting the disabilities that getting the compensation you deserve for your disability, getting medical treatment throughout the VA, because I got out in 1998. Realize how old I am now. A little age on me. 98. But anyway.
You're still a youngster, though. You still a youngster.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. But I got out in 98. And when you get out of the military, no one back then, no one really tells you, where to turn for help. So getting out in 98, having a disability, I went years, all the way to 2015, before I filed my first claim. So I carried that disability for years. Now to be able to talk to other veterans that I run across that are experiencing some type of injury that they sustained while in the military, that, hey, there's help. We can help you with this. We can direct you. We can put you in touch with someone that can assist you.
And last and final question, as we're coming to the close of this segment, is, do you have any events or action, CWA or otherwise, coming up that you would like to share with our listening audience?
Yes. Saturday, June the 16th, we're planning an event in Atlanta, Georgia at 10 a.m. And this will be the celebration of Juneteenth. And again, that's in Atlanta, Georgia, June the 17th at 10 a.m. at the Civil Rights Museum.
All right. And so June 16th or June 17th?
I'm sorry, I may have said 17th. 16th, Saturday,
okay.
Saturday,
June 16th.
Yes.
Okay, good. June 16th at the Atlanta Civil Rights Museum.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Lamar. Thank you, David, for hanging around with us. Lamar and David, still hang on around with us. We have our Power Trivia coming up next. You're listening to CWA Our Power Hour on KYOK 1140 AM and the all-new 106.5 FM. If you're on the go, you can take us with you on KYOKradio.org. Our Power Trivia is up next with Makia.
Yes, we're back with another edition of Our Power Trivia, and I'm going to cause some trouble over there in that local in District 6, because today is going to be between Reginald and Lamar, and I am just so excited to do this.
Wow.
All right.
Either way, we will be gracious.
So here's how it goes. I'm going to ask you a series of 7 questions today. Your name is your buzzer. The first name that I hear will have the opportunity to answer the question. You answer the question correctly, you get the point. You answer it incorrectly, then your opponent has a chance to steal the point. And whoever has the most out of 7 will win the game. Are you guys both ready?
I'm ready.
Lamar, are you ready?
Well, that sounds
Yes,
like
I'm sorry. I was born ready.
I feel like Reginald's over there trying to sabotage you. Okay.
He is. But I got him.
All right, let's get started. So we're gonna do a monthly recap. Basically, that's what our questions are gonna be. So if you've been listening, then you should know the answers. First question: When did Mental Health Awareness Month begin?
Reginald,
Lamar.
Okay, heard Reginald first.
the year my mother was born, 1949.
All right, that's one for Reginald. Second question. When is Teacher Appreciation Week?
Lamar.
Lamar?
Is it May the 6th through May the 10th?
All right, that's one for Lamar. Next question. What does CBTU stand for?
Reginald,
Lamar.
I heard Reginald.
you certainly
Oh,
did. You
I
certainly
think
did.
it was Lamar.
Coalition
I got
of Black
muted.
Trade Unionists.
All right, Reginald came to play today. All right,
I
that's two for
challenged
Reginald,
that
one
one.
for
I challenged
Lamar, you
that
need to
one.
file a
We need to
grievance
play the
on that.
replay. We need to replay.
We'll find out on the recording, but I think I heard Reginald. Okay. Next question. When does Women's Health Week begin?
Reginald.
Lamar.
Woo! Reginald again.
Ah, I saw him that right here.
Gracious, and you're losing, Lamar. It is observed every year beginning on Mother's Day.
All right, that's three for Reginald, one for Lamar. If Reginald gets the next
Wow.
answer correct, he wins the game. All right. When did Military Appreciation Month begin?
Lamar.
Okay, Lamar.
April the 30th, 1999.
All right, he's back in the game. Next question. When is Period Poverty Awareness Week?
Reginald,
Lamar.
Reginald, I heard you.
Ah,
Let's see.
you certainly
Let's see what
did.
happened.
it's a-
May 20th through May 26th.
He got it. He got it. He whooped you, Lamar. So today, guys, the winner is Reginald. I wish I had Timmy's silent bell to ring it for you all, but congratulations, Reginald.
Victory is mine. Victory.
Now,
Can
you
we
know
get
you're
a
gonna
Price
get
is Right loser horn?
discombobulated.
Can we get a Price is Right loser's horn? That's what we need. Doop doop doo doo. Lamar.
We're gonna do something when it comes to this, to losing. We got to get something going. So we'll work on that and have it on next week. Thank you so much, Reginald and Lamar, for playing the Trivia Hour Power Trivia. Thank you, Makia, for always having the. All right, then. Somebody got a loser bell going. Thank you so kindly.
Linda J, Linda J, Linda J.
Not Linda J came on.
Linda
just to show
Jada
that you're a
tuned
loser.
in. All right. Thank you so kindly. As we come down to the final minutes of the show, our union brothers, sisters, and siblings at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette have been outside striking 18 months on the picket lines. And yet while they are striking, they are still churning out the news with facts for you and me. Let's show our support to them by making sure we subscribe to unionprogress.com. Once you subscribe to this free publication, how about going over and donating to their strike fund at cwa.org/ppg-donate. And I just heard someone shout, "We are one." That's right, we are one. Our brothers, sisters, and siblings at Maximus are still fighting for a contract. And since you're in a giving spirit, because it is better to give than receive, journey on over to cwa.org/CCW Solidarity Fund and help the workers and their families of Maximus. We are vastly approaching the CWA National Human Rights Conference from August 11th through 14th in the beautiful city of Houston, Texas. We hope that you have already made plans to attend, and if not, there is still time. So go and make your reservations today. Also at the CWA National Human Rights Conference, the Common Defense organization will have a table, and we ask that you go and visit the Common Defense table at the CWA Human Rights Conference. We thank all of our guests again for being in studio with us today, Lamar Banks and David Marshall. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us today. An hour is not long enough to be with you, and a week is too long to be away from you. You have been tuned into the CWA Human Rights Justice Hour Power broadcast. I hope something you heard today has inspired you to take action toward creating positive change in the world. Every person has the power to make a difference, no matter how small. And by working together, we can create a world where human rights are respected and valued. So I encourage each of you in the listening audience to reflect on your role in promoting human rights to effect change in your communities and beyond. Know that you are not alone in your quest for a more just and equitable world. When faced with injustice, it can be easy to lose hope and give up. But remember, justice may be slow, like the truth, but when it finally comes, it will stand. Again, happy Military Appreciation Month to all of our veterans. Until next Thursday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, right here on KYOK 1140 AM and the all-new 106.5 FM, KYOKradio.org.